Us. Welcome everyone to the first episode of the Kyokushin Shuffle. Yeah, there he is, right there, ladies and gentlemen. First episode. It's an absolute honour. It's my privilege to have my master, my Shihan, of 19 years, and to put it simply, the Kyokushin Shuffle is to have fun and just have a chat. And you'll see how my Shihan and I chat, and I hope others out there can reflect with it as well. But Shihan Bill Polly, welcome to the Kyokushin Shuffle. How are you?
Good, thanks, Patrick. How are you, mate? What the hell is this Kyokushin Shuffle, mate? The last time I had a Kyokushin Shuffle was probably about 25 years ago after after a tournament where I had my butt kicked. Awesome. Kyokushin Shuffle, love it. Love the name, buddy.
Well, it came from us, when we would walk out the dojo under your tutelage and we were like, shuffling around. And that's where you said at one time. And I think this is where I want to, advance this chat and into that aspect of it's not just Kyokushin people. It'll be a mix of people like that you've introduced me to over the last 20 years and martial art practitioners and people across all walks of life that have, something to share,
Yeah, well, that's good, mate. It's a really, really good concept, Paddy. And when you floated that idea to me, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. It's about time that people hear our stories. It's about time people hear about our friendships. It's about time our people hear about our arts. Not just Kyokushin but all the friendships that we've made over the years, and just so we can share a little bit of our experiences, a little bit of our journey, and hopefully we could influence and set paths for others that we've taken.
Well, that's a sweet segue to, I guess, having you first and foremost on the podcast, and me saving it for this episode was the success of your camp on the weekend in Mount Evelyn.
Boom! What a great camp it was. Yeah. I'm absolutely humbled by the heaps of messages that I've received as a result of the camp. I'm humbled by messages I received from others who couldn't make the camp. So It was a risk. It was an opportunity, Kyokushin being crash and bash, I thought, it's about time that we introduce something different. And it was an absolute awesome weekend. And hopefully, after 43 years in the martial arts, I learned something from that, and hopefully the students did the same thing on that weekend.
Well, I'm sure when Hanshi Eddie spoke at the end there, and he was the legend himself, just patiently sitting there, and then gave us a summary of saying, even I learned something just by watching, and that just really blew us away, didn't it?
Oh, exactly right. This is a man that 50, 60 years of martial arts plus, and as you can see, mate, he's with me every single part of the journey, and to hear that from a man who's been involved in martial arts for so long, to say, just by watching, he's learned something from that, and he was a man, he was that Shihan that was totally against, what is that shit? What are you doing? Yeah, really? Get in the water. Why aren't you in the water? But for him to turn around and say that was absolutely a great acknowledgement of the success of the camp, bringing Shihan Jim Phillips, who's been a long time friend of mine.
Yeah.
He was that next generation before me in terms of fighting. And, he's obviously another conversation piece another day, and he's got amazing stories as well, because we've both had the experiences of going to Japan. We've both had the experiences of world tournaments and fighting and training in Japan. We've both had the experiences of, training with Sensei. That's the connection we have. But to be able to bring three-time world champion Takuma Shihan, over and get him and us being the first that he's ever, shown some of his techniques was an absolute honour for us, and the comfort in him providing us with those teachings on that weekend, which he's never done to any student in the world.
Yeah, I think that also opened up for us, hours afterwards to understand that the meaning of this camp and I guess the direction of what you're putting forward to, and where I'm trying to help as well, was there's Kyokushin is not just kumite, it's not just fighting. Hey, it opened up so much with all the other Shihans, didn't it? It was Shihan Lance with the bow, Shihan Jimmy with that side of self-defense, your Goshin Jitsu background. We wanted to show as much as we could, and Jesus, did we ever?
You know, and that's the thing, Pat. You know, we've had these conversations many a time, and people think, oh yeah, the syllabus is so small, but yet the syllabus is so big. You know, we think we know it, but we don't.
Yeah.
And to be able to show some of the things that we don't normally do in the dojo during the weeknights, and to do it at a camp like that, it really just shows another dimension. And it also articulates that the levels of experiences that we have and we've learned. You know, we've all taken different paths. Mine was a fighting, but then it was also the Goshin Jitsu. You know, Shihan Lance is the Kubudo, the bow kata, you know, and the bow and the techniques there. So it really showcased the talent that we have today in terms of the Shihans, and really, you know, for those students who haven't experienced that type of training, you know, it's not just the crash and bash that we're used to, being Kyokushin, the strongest karate. Yeah, that is the strongest karate. And yes, it is, but there's another side to it, you know, the yin and the yang, the soft and the hard, the technical, the strong, and you hear, you know, and again, I was so blown away by the fact that, you know, he's a three-time world champion that we've never, you know, apart from a couple of training sessions in Japan or bits and pieces that we've had with Shihan Takuma, to put up on that whiteboard, you know, power, technique, and speed technique, and power, you know, like just that concept and the understanding of the art.
Yeah, and with Shihan Takuma, you know, we, you know, I was fortunate to compete in those 3 world tournaments, and every world tournament he had something new and something different. But again, you kind of step back and kind of go, geez, someone's going to get him. You know, someone's surely going to get him. But man, did he just prove to us, or prove to me more so, and in how naive I was in thinking that it is just this, you know, a 1-2 something. He's got that many tricks up his sleeve. You know, he disclosed a little bit, as he would say, little, very little.
Yeah.
But it just opened my eyes, and I cracked the shits a little bit, because I'm like, damn, you know, look how much things I thought I had worked up to, but far from it. And it's opened my eyes.
Man, and he's a man that used his technical ability and his mind, you know, to not train his techniques, but find ways, innovate, you know.
Yeah.
He brought innovation to the art. He brought, yeah, how do I beat this man? You know, how do I fight a 130 kilo 6'5" guy that I don't have anyone in the dojo I'm exposed to, you know? How do I beat a man who moves so fast and so quick and counter attacks? And it was putting that science into it and using the body, using the whole sense of the body kinetics, you know, and how we operate and how the body operates, to be able to maximize his technique, maximize his strength, and beat opponents, you know, twice the size of him.
Yeah, and I put up those, for those that weren't at the camp, but I put up the night before the world tournament, the second world tournament, glimpses of the 4th, glimpses of the 5th, and yourself and Shihan Jimmy and all the Shihans were like, shit, we used to crack. We used to, you know, how strong, how tough, muscled, Kurosawa, Yamaki, and all these legends, and even Howard Collins was in a couple of them, and just hearing those names and respect to those guys immensely. And then Takuma Shihan was just sitting there as if it was Disneyland. You know, he was just there, like, eyes on the screen, no interruptions, and even Hanshi Eddie was sitting on the side on the couch, and he could see who was, you know, is that XYZ? And it was like, holy moly, he just, yeah, amazing stuff. But that era though, Shihan, I mean, in going there quickly, yeah, that did have its fighting phase, and definitely instilled how strong Kyokushin was around the world, hey?
Oh, yeah. You know, I mean, especially, like I said, I had the privilege of fighting, and, you know, I was one of the few foreigners that were invited by Soso Oyama in 1990 to fight in the All Japan. You know, we're talking about 128, I think it was about 128 competitors, Japanese, and only 5 foreigners. And to get an invite to fight in that back in those days, 90, you know, and it was just so tough, you know. I remember training for it and being scared, because these competitors, these fighters were at another level, you know. And I was fortunate enough, you know, and I was just talking the other day with Shihan Judd about those stories, because he was over there at the time as the Uchideshi, you know, and beating the regional, you know, Japanese champion. You know, after that, because he got beaten by a foreigner, he never fought and trained after that, because he disgraced Sosai and he disgraced the art, you know, and to be beaten by a foreigner, you know, was the thing. It was just so tough. And, you know, the first and the second world tournament where Sosai said, you know, mate, he would take his own life if a foreigner would take the first world tournament. Yeah, they're things you don't realise. And when you get there, you go, wow, it's another level, you know. The sixth world tournament, I fought in the sixth world tournament. I remember coming up against a Russian who was professional full time, and here I am, you know, trying to go to uni and trying to, you know, find my way in terms of time and things. And I come up against a guy who not only was sponsored by his own country back in Russia, but lived in Japan for 6 months. And I took it to 3 rounds. I gave it the best I can, and they reckon that you could hear the punches from, you know, 3 levels up in the grandstand. That's how tough. And he was. I mean, I'm 5'10". I was 5'10" and about, you know, 98 kilos at that time, and he was 6'4" and 120 kilos. But, you know, you never give up, and that's it. That's that ultimate thing that we have inside us, that we never give up, and we give it the best we can. And that shows you what level the sport, or, you know, I mean, the tournament, not the sport, because basically our style is Budo, you know, way of life, and the way that it changed from the old days to the tournaments is just another direction that Kyokushin took, and the level of competition was just incredible. You know,
Yeah.
When you're talking about, you know, the world fighters, and you're talking the best of the best, we had to, you know, compete in the state tournaments to get a place into the nationals. We had to compete in the nationals to get a place in the Australia team. So it was all that, and you got the best fighters out of each country.
And that was picked up again on the weekend, and you're a perfect candidate to share with us, because you fell right in that middle block of the generation before, and then well, even one, and then the Shihan, Jimmy Phillips, Cameron Quinn, Shihan, and then yourself era. And I mean, share with us some of the guys and those legends now, because of you guys creating that pathway for us. You know, I just heard someone say we were strong. Australia had strong teams every year, every world tournament.
Oh yeah, we were there. We were the threats, you know, like, you know, the second world tournament with Tony Bowden and Cameron Quinn and, you know, Jimmy Phillips and Milosevic and all that. Mate, they were tough guys, you know. And I remember that's when I was coming up the ranks. You know, I couldn't get past, you know, the quarterfinals or the semis, because these guys were just another level. It was just hard stuff. And then what did I need to do to get to that next level, to get into that? And we were a threat. You know, the Australians were always a threat. The Australians and the Kiwis were a threat of those tournaments, because we had such strong fighters. And, you know, we always ended up fighting the Russians or the Polish or we never fought. Yeah, and I'll be straight up with it. You know, we always had the hard runs. We had the hard runs getting there.
Yeah.
You know, the Japanese had easy runs.
Sam Greco, you know, Sensei Sam Greco as well. You know, he always had it tough, didn't he, coming through at that time as well. You remember his side of it as well.
Well, that's right. You know, I think it was the fifth. I think it was the fifth or the sixth. I think it was the fifth. It was the fifth when when we both went over as a team. So it was, you know, likes of you know, himself, myself. It was a couple of guys from Queensland. It's such a strong team, and he had that run too. He was, you know, he was a monster back then, and fighting Michael Thompson, you know, and those likes. It's just like, really, you know. But that's the game, and we gave it our best shot, and we had some really good results with it. You know, after that, the Gary O'Neills and the Wally Schnaubels, you know, they're full-timers. You know, Wally and Gary were full-timers, and that's where they got to those next levels, because you had to be a full-timer. You had to go full-time to be able to, you know, you've heard me say, you know, what do we do? What do we need to do to get to that next level? Well, you've got to commit. You've got to commit 110%. Sometimes we, in a society here of families and work and job and battling that, it was hard. I did take a year and a half off back in the early days and 4 full times and no money, working in nightclubs to balance it and training, 6 days a week. And I was thankful for Mr. Tan of Tan's Martial Arts for being my first ever sponsor and got me through buying, a chicken every couple of days from the Woolies. He was supporting to do that, and I had to do that to get to that next level, and that's where my fighting took off after that, by spending that full time training.
How did Hanshi Eddie influence that side of it though? Like, I mean, you share that bit as well. I mean, the man has that history of we gesture it every time. There's a lot of black belts under that man,
Oh, look, yeah, a lot of it. He had a real unique relationship, with Sensei, and it was a relationship where it was influeing, from perspective that, wow, he's direct, descent from Sensei straight to us. Sensei would ring the dojo, and I'd answer the phone, and he'd say, Sensei Eddie Emin, where is he? And he'd
ring the phone. I remember you saying that. We're like, ring the phone? Yeah, like the bling bling phone, huh?
The old dial phone.
Yeah.
Ding, ding. I mean,
none of this.
Elvis Squash and Martial Arts, can I help you? Sensei, yeah. Oh,
shit.
And then I'd be standing at attention. There'd be no one around because I'd have the vacuum cleaner in my hand. At 10 a.m. in the morning, and it would be someone from Japan saying that there's a ticket on the way for Sensei Eddie back then to go to Japan and train, and we were privileged with that, and that's the influence that he had, and he was a hard man. Shihan Eddie was a hard man. I'd rock up to the dojo, he'd make me run 5Ks before even starting to train, and then he then after training he would make us do weights and do other sets. It was just he was also cross-trained because he was taekwondo before that. He was the karate. He did weightlifting. So he was ahead of his time, Pat. He was ahead of his time in terms of, I've got photos of him training out in a gym with his little speedos, and then entering Mr. Victoria weight and he'd always say, no, you've got to balance it. You got to be quick and strong and fast, and it's the only way he does. And that's the motto that we carry today under Budo Kyokushin: is champions train harder. There's no other formula, Pat. It's you got to train harder. Simple as that. What is the difference between the number one spot, the number two spot? Well, the difference is the number one spot wants it more. You got to be more hungry. You got to devote. You got to train. You got to push. You got to do all those things.
And I mean, you also had a sweet balance in your journey up to in that period with traveling to Hawaii, hey? And I love hearing these stories because I remember just when I started in 2000, you were just doing one more trip to Hawaii, and I was nothing. I was a white belt just walking in the door, so I had no right to even talk to anyone. But I missed out, and there's no regrets ever. But that, the more I got closer to you and the Budo family, and then more about the influence that Shihan Bobby Lowe had on you and so forth, it changed another way of training as well. Hey, going to Hawaii for, how many times have you been? Share with everyone.
33 times.
Yeah.
33 times. And I still go there. Our last trip was in September, and still catch up with the Lowe family. And I'm very, very privileged and fortunate that Mrs. Lowe and Barbara and Mikey, the siblings of Mr. Lowe, we've become really good friends, family friends over the years, and it's just paying that the honour of having trained, and the influence that man had on my family, from the point of meeting my wife in Hawaii because of the training. Because I was over there training, and my wife was there on a holiday, and we met. The influence there, my 9-month-old son, that was his first trip to Hawaii when he was 9 months old. So he's been how many times? And we were just very fortunate that Kyokushin back then was so strong. And this is what a lot of people don't realise today. When we talk about an organisation, we're talking about 11 million students around the world under one man, under one master. We're talking about Australia, the AKKA, the Australian Kyokushin Karate Association, that was the influence and the driver of all the dojo. There was over 300 plus dojos in Australia under the one banner. And that's why we were so strong, because you could pick from all that. And we were just fortunate that Shihan Bobby Lowe, obviously an Uchideshi and a very close friend of Sorsai, was on the International Advisory Committee. He was also the South Pacific chairman. So he held a lot of tournaments. He had a lot of camps, and he trained a lot with Sorsai one-on-one and all the Goshin Jitsu techniques before. These are techniques that you see in the old footage of Sorsai training with others with open hands, with the kokens, and with the moves to the side. Shihan Bobby Lowe had the privilege of learning all those techniques with Sorsai, and he then had those camps, and the relationship there was just been unbelievable. I've even represented Hawaii in tournaments and winning the All-American and the All-Hawaii tournament.
Nuts.
Coming second place in the Asia Pacific, fighting against Shishinohe. If you know Shishinohe, the Man Mountain, and he was the All Japan at that time, and finished also in the top 8 of the world tournament. We went 3 rounds in the finals of that, and the team again, Tony Bowd and Jimmy Phillips, all those type of fighters, and I was the baby of the team at that point, and that was 1985. That one.
Wow, unreal. Yeah, that's cool, isn't it?
Yeah, and Bobby Lowe just he then wanted to show us that there was more than just fighting, and he used to have he had, I think in the end he had about 6 major sort of camps that went for 3-4 days, and it was all Goshin Jitsu techniques. It was all that. It was all the bunkai. It was all stuff that we hadn't even seen. We're going, wow. And that was the connection to the Hawaii Karate Association and the Tino Soberanos of the Goju and the Kempos. They were all one big family, and they would exchange info, just like Sorsai did when he was training with Yamaguchi under Funakoshi and all those guys. It was just another era. And that's the journey.
Yeah, that popped up very nicely too with Hanshi Tino Sobrano attending your camp as well. What an honour that was for a lot of people that may not have heard of him, which was a shame for some that hadn't. But they were young and so forth. But for you more so, and to have 2 Hanshis present at the camp, slowly, minute by minute, when it was just you start to see 78-year-old Hanshi Tino Sobrano just so passionate about what he's up to now. But he also shared a fair bit of your history as well with yourself and Shihan Johnny Ross as well, eh?
Yeah, no, they were good times. Obviously his connection with Hawaii and the Philippines, his journey, and again for him to drop everything and to come to our camp was again another privilege that we had, and that's from relationships that we've built over the years, relationships that Hanshi Eddie has built over the years, and to be able to call on those. It was a different era where it didn't matter what style, we all trained together. Shihan Johnny Ross from Goju, he would train in our dojo, and you've seen him, come to our dojo in those days. And I remember, I think it was the 1990 All Hawaiian American tournament. We were fighting against in the open division, and Shihan Johnny Ross was coming from one way, I was coming from the other. That was when the Sabaki guys were really popular, and they were all over from America, and all the Sabaki guys are just knocking everybody out. Come to the semi-finals, it was going to be Shihan Johnny Ross and I to fight, but Hanshi Tino back then goes, nope, we're going to save the boys. Billy, you go through. Johnny, you're not going to fight for 3rd and 4th. Johnny's going to fight for 3rd, and Billy, you go straight to the finals. And as it took out, Johnny smashed the guy to 3rd place, and I absolutely destroyed the guy. I remember kicking him right out of the ring because I was just that angry that he was knocking people out on the old finger point. It was the start of the old, ring karate guys, and he was just an attitude plus. But I tell you what, I even remember, you don't remember that many fights, but that one there I remember so clearly. Stewie Corrigal, Shihan was the centre referee, and he just let me go loose by kicking this bloke all out of the ring with all my low kicks. It was just good times. And we had a photo back then with Hanshi, Tino and Eddie and Shihan and myself, and we recreated that photo this time around. So we'll post it up and see how gracefully we've aged.
Shit. That's cool. I guess and that slowly slides into, I guess, a little bit of when I jumped into your dojo in late 2000. You were on the back end of your fighting days, but then you're a dojo operator, and then and instilling and sharing, I guess, that journey up to this, not up to now, but I guess that period as well. And I mean, I had to consult with yourself when I finished fighting in 2016, but it was more of a passion of mine to coach and to help the next. You use the word heavily, next generation. And you only figure that out when you go, well, shit, I've only got X amount of time personally to do both, and I juggled a little bit of it with Senpai Dean and Senpai Kat in the 2016 Worlds, and I went, oh, no, I should be right. But I was spent. I was just too tired from my fight. I was just, not 100%. But from your side, I mean, how, I think, I'd like you to share how your Hanshi, what Shihan used to say to you guys when you were showdowns, what you guys had to do. What was it again for everyone here?
Well, in terms of get out and go and open up a dojo, that's it. Yeah. He was, and that's it. He was supported. That was the whole philosophy of growing your organisation. The whole philosophy of expanding your teachings was you had to go out. You're no good to me in this dojo. Get out of here. Get out of here. And he would encourage that. A lot of the now these days, a lot of dojo operators who are running these dojos want their black belts to stay because it's easier. It's they've got the teachings. They can spread the teaching amongst the week. Back then, we had no choice. You have to open up a dojo. That was it. You had to go out and expand, and you had to take another journey. I was still competing and fighting, so juggling a dojo, it was a rule. As soon as you became showdown, you had to. Brown belts were opening up dojos back then. Sensei Brett Thompson, he was a brown belt, and he had his own dojo up in Little those days. That was part of it. The teaching side was always a part of it because that's what balances you out. And also corrects your techniques and also makes you think of, am I doing it right? Am I showing it right? Because when you develop your students, you're a reflection of your students. And that's what Shihan Eddie is that, what I'm showing you is I'm in you and you're in him, and you don't progress that way. So you just try and take it to another platform, then go up and up and up. And it is the transition of fighting and going into coaching is a complete different thing. I mean, I even get the sweaty palms still now after so many years there. Coaching you guys, all you guys, and a small, as we used to say, a small little dojo in Doncaster created 7 Australian champions. And we didn't need the fancy, gyms and the massive weights. You were there. I remember you walking in the dojo. You're probably the stiffest bloke I've ever seen. You couldn't even do your kibudachis. Remember that from all your basketball playing days?
Yeah.
And I had to push you down and stretch you and break you first before.
Yeah. No.
And then that's the transition, and that's what people have to embrace. They have to embrace the different levels and the different pathways. We're not all fighters. We're not all teachers.
Yeah.
Some are fighters and teachers, but we need to keep going, and we need to then get those next levels and those next stages. You can be an absolute awesome fighter, but guess what? You're going to be a crappy coach. Or you can be a crappy coach, and you've seen it in your discipline and the sports disciplines that I've been involved in. A champion, player or a champion sportsman doesn't necessarily make a champion coach, does it?
No, not at all. And yeah, I like that side of it, and I was passionate about that after we spoke, and then when it was time to hang up, there's moments I still want to continue and test myself, and that still is in the blood because of the upbringing that we had with you. And always be ready, 90% of the time, 90% be ready, Pat. You'll get this might pop up 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month from now. No excuses, be ready. So loved always being on standby, and that would always that takes into effect, how I'm trying to teach my guys as well. And I guess, bringing out the shin eyes and so forth. And I mean, you know, you and I have had big chats about, you know, there's certain things you can put up on social media. There's certain things you keep to yourself and to the dojo. But, you know, the Shinai days, I mean, if we were to put up, if you were to put up 35 years ago, your Shinai days compared to the ones that I got from you, it'd be on the Current Affair or something,
I've still got the scars on my butt, Pat. I've still got the scars on my butt, you know. For the Shinais, and sometimes the Shinai, would break on us. That's our art. But that was it. It was a different era back then. We'd end up in the showers and we would just laugh at each other with all the welt marks on our backsides. Yeah, that was the journey, and it really separated those who really wanted to train down that path and who didn't. And there was no problems if you didn't. It just made you realise the commitment and that next level and that next step that we need to go with these things.
Yeah. With all that said, you know, I brought it up with you more so after a camp. You know, our adrenaline's pumping and we're all fired up. But I guess, you know, what is it that keeps you passionate? You know, I mean, I understand a bit of it, but deep down, you know, to do it for 40 plus years like yourself, and you were at an early age and now you've seen different generations come through. The passion side is more of the highlight of what I'm doing here, you know, and why I want to interview special people, because, we can overemphasize a little bit too much on certain things in regards to people, you know, struggling at the minute and in certain capacities in life. But you had two things always that I say today: the dojo is always open, and call me anytime. And then you kind of get your head around that and go, horse. And then it's like, no, listen to me. The dojo is always open. You can call me anytime. And I think a bit of the passion side, you know, where does it float within? You know, I'm sure I remember you also saying, I'm a doctor, I'm a chiro, I'm a physio, I'm a this, I'm a that to all of you guys. And it was like, oh shit, that's fair enough. What triggers it?
And that's what it is. It doesn't try. There's no sort of specific type frame. It's very hard to explain this. This is why I keep saying, some of them say, it's in our DNA, because we're special people. We're very special people that we come back to it every single day. It's a part of our DNA. It's a part of our life. It's a part of Budo Kyokushin. Budo is a way of life. It's the art, and it's the person that makes the art. It can be any art. It doesn't matter, but it's just the person, and it's just the pathways that we take, and the passion derives from having that attitude of, glass half empty or glass half full. Well, what is it? And you heard Hanshi Eddie after 60 years say, I'm still learning, so my glass is still empty. Yeah, your glass never. Remember, I remember when you were Uchi Deshi, remember that glass on the top shelf? I used to fill the glass up, and you'd say, the glass is full, nothing else fits in it. But then when we came back next week, what was it? It was half.
Yeah.
And that simulates, and that was a lot of the teachings, of the philosophies and the teachings behind Hanshi Eddie was, hey, you leave something there and you don't train, it becomes empty again. So you got to keep going. You got to keep going. You don't stop. You keep going, and again that training of those beliefs and those views, and the meditation that comes with it, the hard bag work, the kata, the irogego, it all has its place. It all has its place. Walking into a dojo, my first ever training session in Japan, so excited. I've been training months for it. Yeah. And it was my Gary's for 2 hours. It was like, whoa, is that it?
Yeah.
Is that it? I came all this way for my Gary's, but then you realise why you're doing it 1,000 times, and then you relate it back to the mottos of Sosei and all those, ways that 10,000 times you know it, 100,000 times you really become proficient at it. I don't think there's an end date for anything, and the passion is to create people, to create, for me it was, okay, I had a great run with my fighting. I got to the best that I can do. I was happy with that. But then for me, the drive was, how can I better myself by creating more champions and devoting my time into creating those students, good black belts, not letting the style, move away from us, and bringing it back to the traditions, bringing it back to those hard training sessions, and balancing it all out. And we were quite successful. We still got black belts. The Hanshi tribute last year was an absolute testament to how many belts we've had. And Hanshi Eddie over the years has had hundreds of belts, but how many have stayed with him? Only a handful. Because it takes a special person to go on that journey. Millions of students. I remember doing the books of the dojo back in those days when we had Doncaster. I had over 1,500 students that had gone through that dojo in a period of 10 years. Where are they now?
Yeah. It's
you can only count them on your hand, can't you? But it's the passion, it's the drive, it's to create that next level, to create something better for that next generation. And where Jimmy Phillips, Shihan and I are at the moment is not about us. We've had our time. It's about you guys. It's about you as the sensei. It's about the Dean Pollys and the Nathan Phillips and that next generation. And the reason why our association with Takuma and Hasegawa is because it's not for now. We're not selfish, and that's another trait in your martial art, is that you should never be selfish. You should never ask for a grade. Shihan Bobby Lowe never had gradings, Pat. You would be training and he'd go, here you go, here's your belt, now you're a green belt. And you just didn't know because you never asked for it, and that's when you received the training. We never, since Shihan Trevor and myself, who were both fortunate to go to every single camp with Shihan Bobby Lowe, he would ring me up and say, hey, Billy, there's a condo free for the next 2 weeks. You coming to train? I'd jump on a plane and go. We used to have this one credit card of $5,000, and that was my training credit card. I'd max it out, then I'd come back, pay it off, and it was ready to go for that phone call. If I used to see the +101 number, I still know Shihan Lowe's number. It was like, whoa, Shihan Lowe's ringing me. Awesome, I'm ready. I'm packing my bag before I even answered the phone call because I was excited about that next opportunity. Or Shihan Eddie taking me on those journeys to Europe, to Japan, to all those countries, and all the friends that we meet. We still communicate. It's about family. That's Kyokushin. That's what Sensei Oyama did, was created a massive family for us to tap into. I don't think there's a country that I can go to and not ring up somebody to say, hey, I'm Shihan Bill under Shihan Eddie Emin, under Sensei Oyama. Doors are open. And hence me saying doors are open.
Yeah, no, it is a special feeling too, and I'm seeing it when I'm, and this is a call out to anyone that's ever training in Melbourne to train under one of Shihan Bill's dojos, which is mine in Nunawading. Don't hesitate. We've had a beautiful thing going where we're friends of many, and this united tag that's going around at the minute in Kyokushin is, you see, it just got me moving a bit, because it's something I hope I can, aspire other people to come into a dojo. And it's no fee. There's none of this shit. Oh, do I need to give you no. Come train. Where you from? What's going on? And it's happened. We've had Sydney people, overseas people, interstate, or wherever it needs to be. And they come in, they just gesture, they hit me up on Facebook, all good. And I remember when some used to do that to you, but we didn't even have Facebook back then. And it was a phone call, and then someone would come in, and it was like, oh, cool, how cool's this? So, yeah, that's a big passion. And that also entwines a little bit of what I'm trying to do here, and all the friends that I've made, and all the friends that you've had in your paths as well, that are family that can be, sharing out there, that we're not just Kyokushin or martial arts. It's huge, man. It's huge. It's much bigger than being healthy and fit, eh?
That's exactly right, Pat. And it comes back to, again, I've been with Shihan Eddie for how many years, and he's been my only Shihan and my only teacher. And others go from Shihans to Shihans and different organisations, but no matter what, I've always had the one Shihan, and he had that attitude. He had that openness. He would take the shirt off his back to help somebody. He would or Yamas also, the Uchideshis, we were fortunate because of the type of man he was. He would house the Uchideshis that have just finished from Japan in his own house. And we had the privilege of training with them because he was that open to having them and feeding them just so they can train with us. He's opened doors and inviting anybody. And you've experienced that when I go overseas. He introduced me to everybody. He never held us back in terms of, oh, yeah, I'm the master and, you know, you can't come around us. He would introduce, hey, this is such and such from Pakistan. This is such and such from Iran. This is such and such from... And I still get messages today, Seychelles, you know.
Try walking through Japan airport with him. Bugger me.
Yeah, that's right. And it was like that. We used to walk the streets and be usos everywhere back in those days. People would stand up in the train. As soon as they saw us wearing the kanji in Australia, it was it. They all knew. Shihan Eddie was, and Oyama used to call him Sensei Eddie, student, Sensei Eddie and student. That was it. But yeah, that open door policy. I became a junior branch chief under Sensei, and back in those days, you had to do your penance as a junior branch chief before you became a branch chief. I was Shihan Eddie's, you know, number one. I was running his dojo, but the first thing he said to me was, "You have to go and start your own organisation." Didn't hold us back. Yeah, that's it. Then the same I'm doing here. You need to grow your dojo. Yeah, we're all one. Doesn't matter, but
yeah,
you need to. Yeah, you as I created my identity, you create yours. The other person creates theirs, and that's how we grow. That's how Kyokushin will grow, and that's how Kyokushin will last for centuries to come.
Yeah, it's a good point in bringing that up. I mean, more so for other people to hear that from someone like yourself. You know, that what is, you know, what is the next step? You know, what is it going to be? Not in respect of the numbers in Australia or globally are what they are, and the organisations are according. But we all, that's like back to that theme again. We're all united. We all understand. You know, there's a the generation of yourselves and so forth that are sliding through, wanting to continue the growth. And if with no growth, what the, you know, we got.
Well, that's right. With no growth, Pat, we're not going to get anywhere. We're just going to die in a little dojo with 4 or 5 students, and it's about using those relationships. And I say, leave your ego at the door. Simple as that. Use the relationships. It's all about relationships in any industry, as you know. You know, whether it be law enforcement, whether it be retail, whether it be business type, it's about the relationships. If you don't have the relationship, guess what? You're not going to progress. You're not going to go. If you don't have the relationship with Japan, if you're not going to have a relationship with those other dojos, you're just going to be that little lonely dojo that gets lost in the whole system. And then, you know, I've walked into Kyokushin dojos and I'm thinking, wow, is that even Kyokushin? Because they're lost, because they don't have the relationships, they don't have the connections, they don't put themselves out there. You have to put yourself out there. You just can't, you know, have an ego on your shoulders and open up a dojo and say, well, I'm the karate master. Well, you know, it's not about that. It's about having those connections, those relationships, those opportunities for your students. That's it. You might be great now, but it gets to the point, and you saw it with our dojo, that I had to think about it. It came to a point when you guys were getting your black belts and your fighting levels were going up. I had to have those relationships to take you guys to that next level, to take you guys to that next step. And that's what my Shihan did. And that's what Sensei would do to his people.
Yeah. It also shows, I guess, where it's at now, right? You know, and we you know, Shin Kyokushin had its world tournament 2 weeks ago, and I was, you know, live streamed. You know, where you took me to Japan in first time in 2005, and I had my $100 Australian to buy a VHS. You know, and even having you know, God forbid, if anyone touched your Shihan Bobby Lowe Go Shinjitsu video and did
don't touch that.
And now
TV.
Now it's on YouTube, and all my students are getting just a quick post on a Thursday night after us doing it. You know, we thoroughly go through that, or the Pinyan Sono Go Inura. You know, oh wait a minute, no, I don't need to go to Shihan Bill's. Howard Lippman, who was the one that we had the book. Fitkin,
Brian
sorry,
Fitkin.
no,
Brian Fitkin.
sorry, Brian Shihan. Brian Fitkin. His book was just gospel in our dojo, wasn't it? Just a quick reference back. But what I'm getting at is the IKO One Matsui group have their world tournament coming up as well, and they're all big. Everyone's having good, nice, solid, big international tournaments, and it's something still that it's promising. Still promising.
Yeah, look, and it's just a shame that the pathways have gone that after Sorso passed away. But I thought it is coming back. I feel it is coming back because of the relationships that we've had as fighters back in those days. They are difficult times. That's the reality of it all. But the one thing that I want to really reiterate and get the opportunity to do that is for everybody out there listening. Yeah, those YouTube videos are great, and that's fine. They're only reference points. You really have to train them. You really have to feel them out and learn from your teachers the right way. They're only reference points. Like we had Brian, our YouTube was Brian Fifkin's book because that was the accredited kata book that we made reference to. We didn't have the videos. Before then, it was the books, and then the videos came, and then the Bible, the encyclopedia. They were reference points. But then our Shihans would go to the camp, to Giwara and Mitsumina, and they'd come back and Sorso changed it anyway.
Yeah.
And this is the one thing I need to say to people is that, hey, there's many ways. There's many bunkais. You just have to understand and know all these different ways because it's all about the evolution. What one particular kata was done 20 years ago is done completely different now. But as long as the bunkai is behind it, then that innovation comes through. We've had many explanations of particular bunkais of kata. What works you as an instructor, as a sensei, you really need to understand, well, why are we doing this technique? Why are we doing the technique before and why are we doing the technique after? And working it out. Your YouTube video doesn't show that. So you can teach a monkey to do tricks, but the monkey will never understand what he's actually doing.
I guess,
there's a lot of monkeys out there, Pat.
Yeah, I was about to say, what are you making reference to someone? No, but the trips that we did that I remember buying the This is Karate book in the Budokan shop, and this was 2005, and naive, I was brown belt, but I had it in my hand, and you went, hold on a minute, where'd you get that from? Put it back. And I said, no, it was on the shelf, it's for sale. And you were like, get it right now. And I was like, oh, it's 150 Australian dollars. And you're like, get the goddamn book or else I'm going to get it and see you later. And I bought it, and it is gospel, obviously, but we were bringing up the other day about, so there's This is Karate, What is Karate, and Advanced Karate. And the Advanced Karate has, I personally have not seen one in possession. I've seen pictures and breakthroughs of it online, but I haven't seen one in possession. And we were saying, oh yeah, there's Bokata in there. There's a whole mixture of stuff in there. And I'm like, son of a, how do we get that now? So, those are books that are just becoming priceless. Shihan Cameron bringing out, republishing his books.
Yeah, great book.
Hopefully, get to chat with him in the with this with the shuffle, and great book. And if anyone touched that, and I know we brought it up, someone did not bring it back to you, it's what a cool book that'll be for a lot of people that need to rehash or understand Kyokushin as well. Because I was fortunate, and for some that are listening, I took a pathway I'm in sales, but I took a pathway to the Blitz magazine era under Mark Castanedi and Silvio Morelli, and I was fortunate to be one of their senior sales commercial advertising guys. And yes, I might have a crack and say, did those 24 episodes, 24 months that I was there, were 18 of them Kyokushin front covers? Maybe. maybe. But you know, I was more on the basis of, you know, Chief Peter Graham was on it, George St. Pierre, and yeah, they had a little bit of Kyokushin, but it was also a spread and in segue here of the Kyokushin influence now. You know, like shit, it's not, you know, we've just spoken briefly on that, but the shuffle here, I'm going to be talking to guys. You know, I just got messages of late that some are training MMA, UFC fighters now. One of the kickboxers that Hammer Castanini had at his the seminar the other day was a world champion kickboxer from Holland, and he just walks into the dojo and just goes, "Awesome!" And I'm like, "Whoa, yeah, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm a green belt, man, many moons ago." And I'm like, "Oh, how cool is that?" Blessed, you know, to be in the facility of Hammers, because in comes in Dolph Lundgren. You know, what a famous movie star. And we rehashed some stories of him and Shihan Jimmy Phillips trained with him and so forth back then and in Sydney. And Michael J. White, you know, your story with him as well. You know, he would catch up with you guys in certain camps. There's a picture of you and a young Michael J. White at Shihan Bobby Lowe's camps. But what I'm leading to is the spread now, you know, the spread that you've seen. Also, you know, your thoughts on it with how Kyokushin has, you know, it's fascinating, isn't it, when you're seeing certain pedigree that are coming up now, but the teachers of them / you know, UFC or Bellator or some of these guys in different styles have a core base of a striking full contact karate style, and I guess it opens, you know, the base opens up, boom, spreads.
Yeah, it's basically developed into a foundation, especially with all the mixed martial arts. And you've got the, you know, when you talk about, okay, there's a karate foundation, it's the Kyokushin foundation, it's the stand-up. We were the stand-up fighters, the Gidans, the hard punches, and you incorporate that with everything else, and it makes you that complete fighter. So it is that base. You know, I say, you've heard me say it so many times, you can't build, you know, a 20-story building without a strong foundation. And this is what Kyokushin gives people. It gives them a really strong karate foundation, a real strong understanding of that stand-up fight. It is yin and morishigeris. It is punches, hard punches and elbows and all those strikes. It's just like Goju and Shotokan and all those. But it's understanding that base level. The traditional karate is hard work, Pat. It's hard work, Pat, these days. The traditional karate dojos are small. Everybody wants to, you know, be the flashy. How many times I used to get the phone calls at the dojo, do you teach UFC? I said, well, mate, I can't teach UFC because that's actually not a style. It's it's an organisation. It's not understanding that. But the true martial artists, there's a place for everything. There's a place for it. Now, we've seen the JSBs. We've seen the Sam Greco. I'm still in touch with Sam Greco. And he constantly talks about the days when he was Kyokushin. That was his foundation, which then catapults that fighter to that other level when you've got that base level. It's, again, in Goshin Jitsu, it's having the Jiu-Jitsu background as well that complements the karate. It's all hand in hand. It's hand combat, and to be able to put it together and to be able to utilize all those things. And you see that these days in the MMA, the good ones who've got the good pedigrees of where they've come from, you know, come all the way up. You can't walk into an MMA gym and go, okay, let's go. You've got to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You've got to be a black belt in karate. You've got to have done some, you know, kickboxing. And Sam talks about the days of his full contact karate before he catapulted into the Sato and then into the K1s.
Yeah. What's your what was your take? And I don't think we've asked you this, but it was just popping up in us chatting. What was the take when the likes of Francisco Filio, Globe, Feitosa, Nicholas Pettis, and K1 opened up? And I guess that was like the little branch there that went and then made the Kyokushin crew, you know, go, oh, we can dabble here. We can also go into this K1 side of things. And again, for those that are familiar with K1, look it up. You know, arenas of 50, 60, 70,000, you know, packed. packed, and you know, Sensei Sam Greco was a huge part of that, and the Dutch kickboxing fraternity turned it on. Peter Ertz and that era as well, you know, slowly coming through. But my point is, it you know, Masoyama was, you know, pretty tough on whoever left after, you know, and went that way, wasn't he? But then the K1 opened up. Did it open up, or was it just what was it when you were seeing it back then?
Look, you know, back then we weren't allowed. You know, we weren't allowed to, especially those early tournaments. You know, you were not allowed to go into that, or if you did go to that, you'd be expelled, or you'd have to resign from Kyokushin to do that. But when we talk about innovation, when we talk about that level of Kyokushin fighters went to that level, and they wanted more. The likes of the Andy Hoogs, Michelle Waddell, Andy Hoog, Sam Greco, those guys, they had to go to that. Francisco Filio had to go to another level. It wasn't just, they were hungry for more. Couldn't wait every 4 years to come around for a world tournament as well. When you're devoting your whole life, that's the other thing that people don't realise. The time that you put in to train, the time that you put in to get to those tournaments, and then to have to wait another 4 years just for a Kyokushin tournament, it had to evolve. It had to,
look out.
It had to, it had to evolve, and it had to get to that next level. And these guys were the pioneers of really showcasing Kyokushin to these arenas. It had to take that next step. And you know what? I talk about this quite a bit. They're the guys who were brave enough, Sam Greco, to resign and go into Sato and go into those levels. The Andy Hoog taking it to those other levels. Francisco Filio, and that's when Matsui took over the reins. He saw that. He saw that there was a place for us too, and don't hold us back. That's the thing. It was that old mentality of some of the old Shihans and some of the old branch chiefs. Oh, no. Yeah, you keep everything together. Your knowledge is power, and you've got to keep everything yourself. No, let us go out there. Sosai opened up his tournaments, and again, they weren't looking back to the Sosai days where you'd have to cover up your kanji so you wouldn't know where you're from, but he'd open it up to anybody. Come and challenge us. You know, if you want to be Kyokushin, if you're Kyokushin and you think you're that tough, well, let's bring it on. And these guys, the Michael Thompsons and the Andy Hoogs, those guys, they took Kyokushin to another level. And you hear about it today, when someone walks into an MMA, UFC fight, it's like, oh, the Kyokushin background, and it's this and that, and Joe Rogan and those likes, they always talk about that. It's really, really good.
You know, and in gesturing Joe Rogan, and a bit of this is influenced by him, because I listen to a lot of it, and I'm traveling on train and driving in cars to various, you know, clients and so forth. But just Joe Rogan the other day brought up with Israel Adesanya, who is the MMA champ who beat Rob Whittaker, the Aussie, but they were talking about Glober's Brazilian kick. And they hadn't mentioned Glober, and I could hear Brazilian kick, and I'm like, surely he's going to reference something here. And it's just, you know, gets the juices flowing. But he brought it up, and he just went, boom. He went, oh, Glober Feitosa. Yeah, you got to check it out. And for me, Israel Adesanya, who's a kickboxing world champion, and all respect to him, man, and all the above. But I was like, what? You don't know who he is? I was like, shit, man. You know, like pumped, but also like, oh, bugger. And he goes, oh, is he Kyokushin? Yeah, he's Kyokushin. So, you know, we're praising a couple of the lads there, but it's where it's at now. Hey, it's, you know, it's so I guess one of the things, you know, we've spent a bit of time chatting, which is awesome, but I said we won't try to do 3-hour podcasts here or interviews, because it's not. It's just a chat, and we got to keep it as a chat, because I want I want people that I talk to back. You know, you can't reveal everything just yet, because we'll talk a bit more later on down the track. But in finishing up a little bit there, Shihan, the Olympics next year, you know, we're going down a path. Well, we're not, but it's going down the pathway of karate in the Olympics. And I guess for a message for some of us to influence us a bit more, you know, it obviously boomed in an era where it was on TV and it was in movies, and then, you know, it took its course in, you know, the title, the strongest karate. But now we're off. There is a karate in the Olympics, first time ever. It's up against taekwondo. It's up against judo. Wrestling's still in the game, and then we're going to do karate. But what's your thoughts? And I know your thoughts, but what's your thoughts in going, well, just be cautious here. We all have to be understanding what is karate and what isn't karate, huh?
Well, that's right. And there's a place for everything. It's sport karate. You really have to draw that line, what it actually is. Is it Budo karate or is it sport karate? What is it? And you'll find that the rules, it'll be interesting to see what rules is going to be governed for that. You've seen it with judo, how much judo changed just because of the Olympics. It's what judo was back in the era to what judo is now. Taekwondo, I had the privilege, I got invited to here in Canberra at the AIS selection titles for the Olympics for the team, and they had Taekwondo people from all over. I was just I had to pick up my jaw from the ground because the art of Taekwondo has changed so much just to accommodate the Olympic side of it. That's okay if that's what people want. Again, it comes down to, well, if that's what you're aiming for, then you aim for. But is it the true discipline? That's what you've got to really ask that question. And I think that's why Kyokushin and some of those other styles have not elected to be a part of it, because it had to be that sport karate as opposed to the Budo karate. It had to be aligned to you. How do you select? We can't keep up with the Kyokushin dojos that are spread now. How are we even going to get an Australian team together to compete at the Olympics with so many different organisations, so many different, and just because I'm affiliated to the one body that is connected to the Japanese, the Olympic Committee side of the house, and then the other one's disadvantaged because they're not. That's the politics of it then comes in, the agendas come in. There's a place for everything, and whether it lasts, in my opinion, I don't think it will. It'll be interesting to see what rules and how it's going to take place, and it could be a great thing. It could be something for people who want that. Yeah. Taekwondo, you've seen the changes in Taekwondo. You walk into a traditional Taekwondo dojo and their hands aren't by the sides. Why are the hands in the Olympic Taekwondo hands by the side? You've got to protect. When you're out in the street, again, it comes back to what we mentioned earlier in the conversation about being ready at any time to go into a tournament. That's how we used to train. We used to train as if that next training session was our last training session before a fight, whether the fight is in a tournament or whatever. Again, if we're learning the art of self-defense, if we're learning the art to fight, we need to be ready. We need to be ready because, hey, if we walk out in the street, we just say, oh, hang on, mate, I don't want to get into this fight because I'm not ready, I haven't trained enough, or my hands are down here. The first thing they're going to do in that situation, you know, because of my lifestyle, my employment that I've had in law enforcement, I've been confronted with those issues, and some of those things just absolutely don't work. And that comes back to, why are you doing it for? Are you doing it for the sport? Are you doing it to just get fit? Are you doing it for a lifestyle? Everyone, there's a place for everyone. And in the one dojo, this is the other thing that you've heard me say a lot, you know, and you know, I mean, and I've given you that advice. Sometimes you haven't liked that advice, is that, hey, Paddy, not everyone's going to be a full contact fighter.
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody can do the fighting. Not everybody. There's a place for everyone in the dojo. And you as the instructor has to work out where everyone's place is, and you pick the training and the direction of that.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect way to put a full stop on today's chat, because that is exactly the stage. My last 5-6 years have been in you know, one-on-one with a 63-year-old, you know, champion gentleman, to the likes of, you know, an 18, 19-year-old lad who may have been bullied coming up. But doesn't want to fight and doesn't have that intention, but loves being a part of the group, the family, the camaraderie, you know, the confidence that comes with it. I can go on for hours about it, but that is cool, Shihan. That's a good way to end our conversation. But Shihan, thank you so much for starting off the Kyokushin Shuffle. I hope this recording's worked.
Doesn't matter. We'll do it again, mate.
Yeah, we'll chat tomorrow.
General conversation, mate. We'll chat tomorrow anyway. But
but
thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the opportunity of sharing. And you know what? You've showed me some of the people that you want to interview. It's an amazing lineup of martial artists.
Yeah,
you'll get a lot of different views and different opinions. Again, everyone's got their own opinion. You need to be open to it all. You can't.
Well, can't wait.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts. But Shihan, thank you so much. It's well done on your camp, and I guess if you haven't jumped on Shihan Bill's Facebook page, it's Budo Kyokushin Karate Australia or Shihan Bill, and I guess here's our segue in just giving some reference back to Shihan Bill and whoever we interview. This is a platform to also for us not to guess what's going on and what's coming up next. And yeah, I tried to get Shihan Bill just before the camp, but I thought it would be a perfect start to start this after we haven't stopped talking, we haven't stopped getting messages, but more so, well done, congrats, good job. We wanted to end the year with a bang. We've got a grading in 2 weeks' time in our dojo at Nunawading, so we'll see you then. But all the best, and for those out there, Budo Kyokushin Karate Australia for Shihan Bill. And as you do, you love hearing people and messages and any inquiries about anything. Hey,
that's right. It's all about a balance of life, Pat, and having that passion and that drive. And as I was saying, to finish off in grade 3 Budo Kyokushin, champions train harder. Awesome.
Thank you, Shihan. Take care. Thanks for everyone for listening to the Kyokushin Shuffle, episode 1. There'll be more to come. Keep an eye out. This is a casual chat, and we look forward to others now seeing how we do this. So all the best, everyone. Keep training hard. Take care.
Take care. Us.